Good evening there, everybody. What is happening? Hopefully, you all are having a wonderful day today. So, when it comes down to it, I thought, of course, that I would give my personal fight review and my post fight thoughts of the aftermath of the Gervonta Davis and King Ryan Garcia mega fight, or at least alleged mega fight. Now, in terms of that of the pay per view numbers, I have no doubt that this fight probably did well over a million pay-per-view buys, at least in my view. I heard everyone talking about this fight, even certain people that were not even casual boxing fans, certain people that I had talked to personally, some friends of mine. So this fight was a very, very big fight. But in the end, this fight did pretty much end up just as I predicted, with Gervonta Davis not only being the victorious of the two fighters in this matchup, but also winning by that of stoppage. And pretty much every problem that I thought that Ryan Garcia was potentially going to have in the fight against Gervonta Davis, it pretty much ended up coming to fruition. In my view, he did not use his feet enough. His lack of head movement and at times his leaky defense cost him. And Gervonta Davis, I will say this, is that I was a little bit surprised. I shouldn't say surprised because after he ended up getting that knockdown in round two, I'm not really super surprised that he was able to do as well off the back foot as what he was able to do. And like I said, Gervonta, in my view, was going to have to pressure Ryan a little bit and make him very uncomfortable in this fight, which is what he did a little bit. But because Ryan Garcia was so tentative to throw after that knockdown in round two, because he was so surprised, Gervonta Davis was able to get away with certain punches and was able to get away with pretty much fighting on the back foot because Ryan Garcia was still a little bit tentative to throw. And I think maybe Ryan Garcia thought that he was going to be able to regroup a little bit and then maybe put on the pressure a little bit later, which is what he tried to do. But Ryan Garcia, compared to Gervonta Davis, even though he's very physically talented and he's got some decent skills, he's just really nowhere near to the same level as Gervonta Davis. And from day one, a lot of us thought that these two were not really meant to be in the ring together. And Ryan Garcia, within his most previous fights, it looked like he had gotten a little bit better. So I'm not going to say that this was not the time for the fight to happen. But what I am going to say is that I just don't think that Ryan Garcia, I don't think that he's ever going to be on the same level as Gervonta Davis. I just don't think that he's going to be. I think that he has the look. I think that he has pizzazz. I think that, he has a lot of hype behind him. And maybe if he's able to, get a couple of very good wins in his career, maybe if he's able to face Teofimo Lopez or, possibly Regis Prograis, someone a little bit later on down the line, and maybe if he's able to get a victory over them, maybe he can revive his career. But to be quite honest with you, I'm not really sure how well Ryan Garcia's career is going to do after this. And of course, for those of you that did not end up hearing about the results, Gervonta Davis ended up getting the stoppage, I believe, in round seven with a body shot. A body shot that really didn't even seem to land that cleanly. But, Gervonta Davis, of course, has monstrous power. But why do I believe Gervonta Davis ended up winning the fight that he did? Or why do I think that he won it in the way that he did? Once again, in my view, Gervonta Davis was always the better round boxer. And Gervonta Davis said something a long time ago that I thought was very particularly interesting. He said that he personally thought that he was the best of his division and that he was the Canelo Alvarez of his division. And I agreed with that. I agreed with that from the moment that he said it. And certain people, may say, what the hell are you talking about? And of course, there's certain people like Dante's Boxing Nation or some of these other channels that say, oh, Gervonta's way better than Canelo, blah, 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 all sort of shit. The thing is with Gervonta Davis is that I agree he is a lot like Canelo Alvarez, not completely in the same way that they fight, but in the same pedigree, in my view, that they kind of are. Both of those fighters, you can tell, at least in my view, that at their best, they're the creme de la creme. And one thing about Gervonta Davis and Canelo Alvarez is that not only are they elite boxers, but they're tremendous athletes. Like when you talk about, the elite of elite athletes, both of those fighters are going to appear on your top 10 list, at least debatably. Canelo Alvarez is extraordinarily powerful. He has great speed. When it comes down to it, he has an excellent chin. And it's the same thing with Gervonta Davis. The only two things about both of those fighters, at least physically, that really isn't up to par is their conditioning. At times when it comes down to that's really been the only two things. And if you're going to beat a fighter of that size, or excuse me, not of that size, but of that caliber, with all those physical advantages, and on top of that, they have a great skill set, you're going to have to really bring something to the table to disrupt that momentum, kind of like what Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Dimitri Bivol did against Canelo Alvarez, or, maybe what some other fighters did against other fighters of that caliber. And Ryan Garcia just didn't have that type of, he didn't have that type of skill set. He had the power, he had the athleticism to really trouble Gervonta Tank Davis, but he didn't have the feet, he didn't have the movement, he didn't have the chin, he didn't have any of that. It just is what it is. If you're going to defeat a fighter like that of a Gervonta Tank Davis, you have to be kind of on the same level as what a Dimitri Bivol was against Canelo Alvarez, someone who's probably a bit bigger than him, or if you're going to be the same size as him, you have to have a phenomenal skill set. Not only do you have to have, be a decent athlete, but on top of that, you have to have very good feet, very good counterpunching ability. You need to be able to frustrate him a little bit. And Ryan Garcia tried to frustrate him early, especially in that second round, which I think was the right way to go about it. But like I said in my fight prediction, don't get suckered into a counter. And I said that overhand left was going to be a main weapon at Gervonta Tank Davis in this fight. And what happened? He ended up getting knocked down by that exact punch in that second round. That exact same punch that I said that Gervonta Tank Davis was more than likely going to throw. Just is what it is. Of course, the shot that ended up knocking him out was a left to the body. But like I said, Ryan Garcia, his defense was just too leaky. And on top of that, his head just does not move enough. On top of that, his feet positioning in this fight, he was supposed to utilize the superior feet, or excuse me, I shouldn't say like that, because that would incline that Ryan Garcia has better feet, and he certainly does not. But what he was supposed to do is that he was supposed to gain the outside foot advantage, meaning that you're supposed to go to Gervonta Tank Davis's right side. That way he cannot land the left as easy. Kind of do what Marco Antonio Barrera did to that of Prince Nassim Hamed. You have to double, sometimes triple up your jabs, go to the body, really rough him up, but also use your feet. And Ryan Garcia, he's a guy that has always had a little bit of a problem with linear movement, moving back and forth too linearly, and had the same exact problem in this fight. He does not have great lateral movement. He does not have great head movement. And if you're a fighter that does not have a great chin and cannot take that amount of damage, and on top of that, you're not able to make your opponent uncomfortable, like if you're going to be a guy like that, you have to be a David Benavidez type of fighter where, you're going to really come for the whole entire time and make them uncomfortable. Like I said, Ryan Garcia, if he was going to try to outbox Gervonta Tank Davis throughout the majority of this fight, it wasn't going to work for him, and that's why he lost the majority of these rounds. I thought that, in his last fight against Rolly Romero, at least I believe that was Gervonta Tank Davis's last fight against Rolly Romero. I actually thought that Rolly had won more rounds than that of Gervonta Tank Davis in that fight before the knockout. But Rolly Romero has a different type of style than Ryan Garcia. Sometimes it's better to try and pressure these type of fighters, or sometimes it's more dangerous to fight a brawling style against a certain fighter than it is a, pure pugilistic style or a pure boxing style. And the reason why is because, Sean Porter, for what it's worth, Sean Porter does not have the boxing craft of Errol Spence Jr. or Terrence Crawford or any of these guys. But, Sean Porter, he might be able to give you a tougher fight than what some of these other guys can do. Like Yordenis Ugas, in my view, there's certain things that he does better than that of Sean Porter. But Sean Porter, because of his type of style, he was able to really rough up Errol Spence Jr. and pretty much anyone he was in the ring with. When Errol Spence got in the ring with Yordenis Ugas, it was a complete demolition job. He completely busted up Yordenis Ugas' face. I mean, it wasn't really even a contest, and he beat him up so bad that he broke his orbital eye bone. So, once again, Ryan Garcia pressuring him early on, I think that it was the right idea, but you kind of had to fight him the way that Dimitri Bivol fought Canelo Alvarez. You had to utilize your feet, you had to utilize, a multitude of jabs, a double, a triple jab, go down to the body, then move out. That's how you were supposed to use your feet, and he just did not do that. He stood in front of Gervonta Tank Davis a lot of the times, not saying that he didn't try to move out of the way, but he let Gervonta Tank Davis stick that lead hand in his face way too often. He reacted every time Gervonta Tank Davis put that lead hand in his face, especially after the knockdown. And you could tell that Gervonta was a bit uncomfortable within the first couple rounds. Ryan was giving him a lot of problems. But after that knockdown, Ryan Garcia, I don't think that he truly believed that he was going to win the fight. And the way that Ryan Garcia looked in this fight after that knockdown, it pretty much concluded, or it confirmed what I always thought, which is that a lot of the talk that Ryan Garcia was trying to say I don't think that he ever truly 100% believed that he was going to win this fight. I think that he pretty much was talking himself up to say, I'm going to fake it till I make it, or that a lot of that was just kind of fluff and muff. Not saying that, there's a part of him that maybe does not believe in himself, but he knew more than likely that, he did not believe everything that he was saying. And I pretty much called on to that. It just is what it is. Some might disagree, but that's just the way that I looked at it. But we'll see what ends up happening after this fight. Hopefully for Gervonta Davis, we get to see him against a legitimate champion next. Talking about Devin Haney, Shakur Stevenson, or whoever the winner is, of Devin Haney, Vasily Lomachenko, maybe the winner of the Teofimo Lopez, Josh Taylor fight. Although I don't think that Gervonta's going to fight that guy, at least as of next. So we'll see what happens. But like I said, Ryan Garcia, the reason why he lost this fight is because he didn't have better feet. He was not the better athlete than Gervonta Davis. He didn't have better head movement. There's really almost no categories besides height and reach that Ryan Garcia really beats Gervonta Davis in. And that's the exact reason why Gervonta Davis won by, in my view, a pretty dominant performance. Of course, Ryan Garcia was able to give him problems in certain rounds. But Ryan Garcia ended up getting stopped in the fight. It pretty much is what I predicted. Now, I did predict, I believe, a 9th or 10th round stoppage. And the reason why I predicted that is because Ryan Garcia, I did think was going to be more of a challenge than some of those other fighters. And in my view, he was. But like I said, Gervonta Davis was also carrying some of those fighters, in my personal view. Besides Isaac Pitbull Cruz, I think that Gervonta Davis, I think that he was making Rolly Romero and some of those other guys, I think he was making them look a little bit better, in my view, than what they actually were. Just my personal view of it, especially Hector Garcia. Because Hector Garcia really was no actual threat whatsoever. But, it is what it is. But like I said, I didn't know which version of Gervonta Davis was going to show up. But as I predicted, intuitively, more than likely a better version was going to show up. And that's exactly what we got. So it is what it is. But like I said, Ryan Garcia needed to use his feet more. Every time Gervonta Davis would try to throw that lead hand, sometimes you have to establish distance, or, try to move off to his right, throw that jab, just mix it up. You really needed to make him uncomfortable. Instead, he didn't do anything like that. And that's pretty much what I predicted. He didn't use his feet well enough. He didn't have enough lateral movement. He didn't throw the jab enough, in my view. He also didn't do enough body work. And, once again, he also just has natural flaws. He doesn't move his head off the line very well. He doesn't have great head movement. He cannot take the same amount of punishment as a Gervonta Davis. And on top of that, he don't have the best feet. Now, the big question is, where do both of these fighters go from here? Well, Gervonta Davis, what is from here is that he could be the debatable new face of boxing. That is if Canelo Alvarez, if his career is quote-unquote over, or he clearly is declining as a fighter. Some people, of course, say that he looks older, that he looks done, and that's very possible. But like I said, his last 2 fights, I think that there's been some X factors that debatably could have been the reason why he looked so poor in some of those rounds. Because Dimitri Bivol, like I said, he's an A-plus level light heavyweight. Canelo Alvarez has never been a natural light heavyweight. And once again, Dimitri Bivol is a perfect type of style, in my view, to beat that of a Canelo Alvarez. And then, of course, you talk about after the loss, he fought Gennady Golovkin, a fighter that gave him hell for 2 prior fights. And it's very, it's possible that Canelo Alvarez maybe was feeling a little bit of pressure from those fights because he said, I got to win this fight. And on top of that, sure, he's older, but this is a fighter that has a lot of experience against me, and he's gave me hell for 2 fights. So we'll see, but that's a conversation for another time. But like I said, we'll see. But if, let's just say, Canelo Alvarez's time is over, at least for the debatable cash cow of boxing, I do believe more than likely that Gervonta Davis, at least for a few years, 3 to 5 years, because he is 28 years old, and I'm not really sure how much longer he's going to be around for. So we'll see. But Gervonta Davis, no doubt about it, he certainly could transition into the face of boxing. And in my view, boxing would be in very good hands. He's a very exciting fighter to watch. In my view, he's a great boxer. He's great defensively. He's great offensively. There are certain things, in my view, that he would need to improve on. But that's going to be really shown against fighters like Devin Haney, Lomachenko, if he's around for much longer and still at a good point. Shakur Stevenson, Teofimo Lopez, Josh Taylor, Regis Prograis, guys like that. That's what it's going to be shown against. So we'll see. As for Ryan Garcia, where do I see his career going from here? We'll see. And I'm rooting for the kid. I hope that he bounces back. But to be quite honest with you, I don't really see his career bouncing back very well. He just has way too many flaws. Now, he is 24 years old, but like I said previously, and the fight probably was, like I said, it probably did happen at the right time. But if I were Ryan Garcia's promoter, I probably would have put him in the ring maybe with someone like Teofimo Lopez, or, possibly even a lighter task before he got in the ring with Gervonta Davis, because he needed extra work. And it's very clear that Ryan Garcia, that he just hasn't fixed a lot of his flaws, and I'm not quite sure if he's ever going to. So, will he become a champion? Maybe. Will he possibly become a top 10 pound for pound fighter later on? Maybe, but I just don't personally see that. I think that there's a possibility that he may eventually become a champion later on in his career, but, a lot of it did end up getting kind of buzzsawed with that image this fight, because he got, I'm not going to say thoroughly dominated in the fight, but dominated and beaten to the point to where it was very clear that the two classes between the fighters really were not that particularly close. So it is what it is. A great fight that I would love to see Ryan Garcia in next would be that of Rolly Romero, maybe Isaac Pitbull Cruz. Those would be two fights that would really tell me how far Ryan Garcia could go. I would love to see those two fights. But after a loss like this, they may not want to put him in fights like that. So if I had to guess, Ryan Garcia is probably going to be in a fight that that probably isn't going to be that eventful, or against a fighter that clearly is not in the same class. But like I said, sometimes that's the way to go. So we'll see what happens. Anyways, that's pretty much about it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see what happens with both fighters later on down the line. And that's pretty much about it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you all later.